Hello, and welcome to another episode of Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast. I'm Stephanie Ricca, as always, here with STR's Isaac Collazo and CoStar's Jan Freitag. Hi, guys.
Hello, Steph.
Hey, Steph.
Nice to see you. And I gotta say, guys, I am excited for this month's episode. Not because I'm not excited for every episode when I get to hear your wonderful insights, but this month we have a special surprise for our listeners. Later on in the podcast, we're welcoming a special guest to talk about some new travel trends data. Brandon Ehrhardt, head of supply marketing at Expedia Group. So Brandon's going to join us later on today to share some data from Expedia's Unpack 25 predictions, which forecasts the big travel trends for the coming year. I know we talk a lot about travel trends in the data, but Brandon's going to bring some fun new concepts to the mix. I know this is always a great topic of discussion, so that'll be later on in the episode.
Finally, an expert. We're so excited.
What are you saying, Jan? An expert?
Keep going.
Okay. Tell me more. Tell me more, Jan.
He will bring color to the data trends the travel trends that you all talk about and know. And I have a feeling there may be some that will say, that sounds familiar, but maybe some that might be new. So something to look forward to. But to begin, it's almost the end of October. We need to look at September hotel performance data. Isaac, kick us off.
Like a bad dream, we lived through September because the U.S. RevPAR dropped 1.3%. But as we talked about in August, which was up 4.1%, right? Remember that number? What happened in August, Steph, that didn't happen in September?
Let me guess.
Pick me.
Yes, you, Jan.
Weekends.
Exactly. So September had one less weekend than what we had a year ago. Remember, August had an extra weekend. And to kind of underscore how important weekends are, a typical weekend in September had a RevPAR that was $38 more than the Sunday and Monday in September. And therefore, that's what makes the difference. So we lost the weekend and picked up an extra Sunday and Monday, and that really drove down RevPAR during the month. The decline in RevPAR was based on occupancy, and ADR was up, but it was only up 1.2%, so that was insufficient to get us to really move RevPAR into positive territory. I thought what was really interesting is looking at both August and September combined, but it was still weak because you have to see, we've had that 4.1% increase, and then we have this 1.2%. You'd think it'd be better than it was, but it was only up 1.4%. So the 2 months combined, up 1.4%. And again, all on ADR, which was only up 1.8%. And what's significant about ADR that we have to keep in mind is that it remains below the rate of inflation. Therefore, while it is growing, it is not rates are not keeping up with that rate of inflation. So if you looked at it back to 2019, we're actually losing ground on a rate-adjusted basis. One of the things we had thought about for September, we knew there'd be one less weekend, but we thought, hey, with the movement of the Jewish observances, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, maybe we'll get the lift. But we didn't get the lift that we thought. We did see a little bit of lift, better performance in group demand. So group demand was above 2019's group demand in September, but that was basically it. So some hotels did see better performance or slightly better than the industry, but again, overall, the industry was down. And looking at the third quarter, RevPAR was still weak as well at 0.9%. And again, ADR growth of only 1.4%. Keep in mind that we've been seeing inflation above 2%. So again, well below the rate of inflation. For the year to date so far, we're up 1.2% in RevPAR. And again, ADR growth is at 1.6%. Again, what's significant about that is if you look at an annual basis, inflation has been up 3.5%. So that 1.6% ADR growth, again, half of what we're seeing in the inflation side. On the global front, a little better results. Global RevPAR was up 2.9% on RevPAR 4.2%. But what's interesting about the global side is this the lowest increase of the recovery so far. So again, but it's been recovering since March of 2021. But again, that's to be expected. That's the normalization of the global data, as we've been speaking about on the US data. So now you're starting to see that normalization. Although in the US, it's much lower than what we thought. We thought it would stabilize, but not at the rate that we've been seeing.
I feel like we need to ring a bell every time somebody says the word normalization.
Or bifurcation.
Or bifurcation. We could have like a car horn honk.
Yep.
I don't know.
I'm looking for a new word.
Sad trombone.
Sad trombone. So that might be it, right? Among the largest countries, we do this based on supply. Indonesia, Spain, Japan, and Mexico all saw RevPAR growth of more than 10%. And again, there is some inflation in a few of these countries, but overall, it's really is demand, and it's particularly Mexico. I'm just looking at the data for the week that just ended, and it was really strong. And it's coming from Mexico City, which is one of the largest markets. So really good growth, and it's ADR based. The most notable thing for the globe was China was down 9.1% in RevPAR. And what's notable about that, it was its 7th consecutive monthly decrease. So again, and that has been trending down because of ADR as well. And I think those are the highlights, or some of it may be lowlights, as they say. But overall, it was a bad dream of a month, essentially, because we came off this high of August, and now it's just settling back down. But again, as we saw, weekends, the composition of the month does matter, as we keep saying. It really does matter.
Jan, I want to ask your impressions of this, but first I just want to say at Hotel News Now for about the last week, this week, we've been covering the start of Q3 earnings season, and this is absolutely what all of the C Corps so far, we haven't heard REITs have been talking about, especially, of course, the big brands that have a lot of exposure in China. They're all now talking about APAC numbers ex-China, and really kind of looking at how that might come back. But those RevPAR numbers for the month and for year to date are very much in line with what we hear from those big companies. Jan, what's your take?
Yeah, all eyes on the Chinese government to see if they can inject, more stimulus that hopefully then trickles down to the hotel and travel industry. But the data that Isaac mentioned, of course, gives a lot of industry observers heartburn. Two things that stood out for me was, yes, the top line for the month, RevPAR down minus 1.3%. We sliced the data, 17 different ways. Urban locations ADR was actually up 3.6%. So downtown, did pretty well. That is probably a little bit of the shift in the Jewish holidays, but, continued healthy corporate transient, probably some group demand. The other number, though, that gives me heartburn, honestly, is year to date, room demand percent change is 0.
Right.
So that is, we're just, 0, it turns out is not enough, is not anything, it's flat with a year ago. So we're just selling as many rooms as we did a year ago. I was just at a presentation yesterday in Chattanooga to a bunch of lenders, and people are talking about 2019 and group and room demand. And I'm like, well, we are not back, to 2019. We're just year over year flat and still a little bit below where we were pre-pandemic levels. So that's really not a great number. It's going to be very interesting to see how we get through the remainder of the year and then into next year. I know that Isaac and team are working feverishly on the new forecast for the remainder of this year and for next year, but 0% demand growth is really not a good sign of things to come.
And what is interesting with some of the work we've been looking at, the largest growth, you mentioned something about urban hotels. So I've been looking at by region, looking at the 4 regions, Northeast, Midwest, South, and West, and then top 25 and others, and combining that. The largest growth, and I was trying to find the number, I couldn't find it fast enough, but the largest growth in RevPAR has been top 25 hotels or top 25 markets in the Northeast. So again, it's the resurgence of some of the business travel, the conference and meetings, that kind of work is, or not work, but the type of travel is coming back. And that's what is driving RevPAR. And it is, but not only ADR, which has been very good there, but also the occupancy side. And no surprise, the weakest continues to be top 25 West hotels, right? So because that's where you have San Francisco and Portland, while Seattle's doing much better. Those 2 cities are still struggling versus where they were prior to the pandemic.
Boston year-to-date RevPAR up 7.6%. New York up 8.2%, Washington, D.C. up 4.7%. Really good to see that those markets that rely so much on the corporate transit demand are really coming back.
Yeah.
How about luxury?
Luxury hotels continue to do very well. And again, I don't remember the year to date, but it's like 10%. Jan, do you have that number in front? I don't have that number in front of me. About 10%?
Yeah, luxury chain scale, room demand up 10%. Unfortunately, rooms available up 7%, which gets you to, healthy occupancy growth. Unfortunately, room rates are down year to date, so RevPAR is up 1%. Really, the story is more about upper upscale, I think, than about luxury. I think luxury is sort of, we saw a tremendous run up in the ADRs, and we've commented on that before. I think the growth rates are slowing, but keep in mind that we're coming off record highs.
Right. I think, and going back though, even though, we're seeing that in the upper upscale, don't disagree with that. Luxury continues to see it's sporadic in terms of it is a lot about events and occasions. And I don't know, we just looked at some numbers this week and we talked about it off air, but we can bring it up to everyone. Austin. So if you Austin, Texas, this week, this is the week ending October 19th. And they had both the Texas-Georgia game. I am a Longhorn, so I was very sad. And then
Hook
the
'em horns.
Hook 'em horns. Well, hopefully this week they'll do better. But what was amazing, they had the highest luxury ADR in the country this weekend, and it was at over $1,300 a night.
And that's just luxury or luxury and upper up?
That's just luxury.
Wow.
And Miami and Fort Lauderdale, which benefited from a Taylor Swift concert, their ADR was also high for luxury hotels, but it was only $840 on average, I think was what it was.
You just buried the lead, Isaac.
I know.
You're saying that football and F1, so sports are greater than Taylor Swift.
For this weekend only. One weekend only, possibly. Okay. But it was Austin just incredible because, again, those luxury hotels ran over 90%. I think it was 92.7% occupancy at that ADR. That's just incredible. Mm-hmm. So, events continue. Composition of months matter, and events actually matter a hell of a lot, especially more now than ever before.
Along those lines, one recurring event New York hoteliers love is the UN General Assembly, which also happened, and the group ADR for that week was $830. The group ADR. So New York hoteliers love that, and the Four Seasons is about to reopen again. The Faena is about to reopen again, and those are very high ticketed hotels. So it's going to be interesting to see how that changes the math next year and the years after.
Four Seasons next month in November reopening, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, just going back on New York, that weekday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday during the UN Assembly, RevPAR was up 107%, if I remember correctly. So just a very strong, this year's UN General Assembly was just extremely good to the hotel industry.
All right, as promised at the top of this episode, we're going to veer from our typical agenda this month to introduce a special guest. And I think it's great that we closed our conversation just now talking about the lure of big events, of experiential travel, no matter whether that experience is for business or fun, whether you're a delegate to the UN or an F1 fan, experience is where it's at. We're going to talk a little bit about that with our special guest, Brandon Ehrhardt from Expedia. Hi, Brandon, and welcome to the podcast.
Hello. So glad to be here. Great conversation so far. Looking forward to adding some of the big trends that are going to be coming in 2025 so your audience can make more informed decisions.
Welcome to the party. So Brandon heads up supply marketing at Expedia Group. He leads a lot of strategic initiatives, programs for Expedia, which, as we all know, is an online travel agency and travel technology company that includes Hotels.com, Vrbo, Travelocity, a bunch of others. Now, to give you a little context, earlier this month, Expedia released its Unpack 25 report, which looks into the crystal ball of travel trends to predict that most elusive thing these days, what travelers want around the world, the kinds of trips they want to take, where they're going, how they're doing it. This is stuff that I'll read this and I'll think, I kind of know something about travel trends, and I'll read it and be like, I didn't even think that was something. And here it is. So, Brandon, before we dig into the trends, give us a quick sketch of how long Expedia's been doing this, how it all comes together.
Yes, glad to. And I think, the first thing I'm going to start with is it's your trends that you predict. You got to go back and take a look and see how they performed. So we did Unpack last year, Unpack 24. We talked about dry tripping, which is around wellness. We talked
Oh,
about
dry
destination
tripping.
dupes.
That was the
Yes,
buzzword
Stephanie, I
of
know that you're big on that
24.
one. It was, yes. We talked about destination dupes, which are kind of look-alike destinations for, popular places. And we talked about tourism. So if you think about it, I think we nailed it. If it took F1 and UT Georgia to unseat Taylor Swift in Miami as far as ADR is concerned, I think Unpack 24 was pretty spot on. Unpack 25 is going to be no different. It's a global survey. It included 20,000 travelers, which is roughly, we filled Madison Square Garden, and we didn't actually fill it, but it's about the capacity of Madison Square Garden. And these are travelers from all over the world, North and South America, Europe, Asia Pacific. So we have a nice, diverse, and representative sample size. And again, this is all first-party data from Expedia, Vrbo, and Hotels.com, which allows us to provide really robust insights for 2025.
So look, we just proved your most recent survey correct. Bam. You're welcome.
Done.
Now, we are not going to talk about every trend on the list. We will definitely include the link where you can see the full report, but we absolutely have to talk about some of the juicy ones. And I want to start, Brandon, with the trend that you call this year detour destinations, because we see this in the travel performance data a lot. Tell us what these are.
Yes, we're continuing to see travelers cast a wider net when they're looking for their destination. So we've seen an increase in flight searches for detour destination, and it really reflects a shift in traveler preferences towards exploring, less crowded, more unique locations. 63% of consumers are considering these types of destinations. So as we think about the influence of social media and the appeal of avoiding like the traditional, what I will call tourist traps, there are a lot of travelers out there that are looking for something a little bit new, a little bit different, maybe something a little bit less crowded.
Yeah. What are some examples of detour destinations?
Great question. So if you think about Krabi, Thailand as a detour for Phuket, Cozumel, detour for Cancun, Santa Barbara and Ojai as a detour for Los Angeles, Brescia, Italy as a detour for Milan. And there's data behind this, right? This isn't just our thinking. Room night demand for Brescia, for instance, is up year to date in Q1 and Q2 in both net room nights and ADR. We continue to see travelers kind of look for these alternate destinations. And I think, for hoteliers and people in the travel industry alike, you've got to be aware of where people are searching, not necessarily just booking, but where are they searching?
Mm-hmm. And I would think people want to bypass the crowds too, right? Like coming out of pandemic was everybody is going to Rome and going to Iceland and going to every national park. So it makes sense that we find these alternative locations, like kind of like that. If you like this, you'll love this.
Exactly. And I don't know if the concept is necessarily new. Like I went to Krabi, Thailand 10 years ago because we wanted to avoid the crowds of Phuket. But certainly the categorization and the proliferation of travelers doing this has just been exponentially growing, especially since COVID. I think you make a great point, right? People got used to their own little bubbles and they don't necessarily want to be with big crowds, maybe not because of the pandemic, but it just feels a little bit more comfortable and more enjoyable to explore at your own pace.
Yeah, there's a little bit of intimacy as well, right? So if you get to see a city, it's more intimate than a Rome or a big city. So different experience.
I do wonder though, is this what's the chicken and the egg here? Is it that people look for that secondary destination first, or are they looking for the primary destination first, get sticker shock and say, whoa, I didn't realize it was that expensive. Is there something in the area we can go that's a little bit less expensive?
Yeah, exactly. I think that sticker shock, we talked about the ADR growth, right? There's just a lot of alternatives and there's so many travel accommodations today that so much supply and so much selection that I think travelers are really starting to lean into that.
I think it's a little bit of bragging and Instagram kind of among that level. I was in Asia last week where, of course, everybody is talking about Japan. And a lot of the people who were speaking there were talking exactly about this. They're like, oh, well, everyone's been to Tokyo and so on. And now everybody's going up here. And it becomes more of that cachet to say, oh, I was in Japan last year, but no, we did not go to Tokyo. We were in Hokkaido the entire time and we saw this special thing and that. So it all plays in together, whether it's price or avoiding crowds or wanting to be identifying the next big thing, which all travel snobs want to do, right?
I love how you casually said, when I was in Asia last week.
Yeah, I know.
Well, it was a destination of Singapore, which I had never been to. But of course, everybody there is saying, oh, well, if you like this, then you should try this, this, the next 20 times that you get on this 18-hour flight to Asia. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if only.
You didn't tell me you were going to Singapore. I would have told you to go to Burger Works. It's not a fancy restaurant. It's my favorite burger joint in Singapore.
A lot of people went there. I saw a lot of...
Oh, I love Burger Works. It's just a good beer, good burgers.
If you like burger, but if it's busy, then maybe I have to go somewhere else.
Exactly.
See? Detour destinations around every corner. All right, Brandon, the next one on the list is one that I think might be a little controversial. Maybe people might not agree. I floated this out in my newsroom. I don't know. All-inclusive era. So the description of this in the Expedia report is, today's all-inclusive resorts are getting a major glow up and Gen Z is here for it. So you're saying young people want to go to all-inclusive resorts?
I'm saying that they want to trade their avocado toast for all-inclusive resorts. And
convince us.
I will. Okay, here's the number. 60% year-over-year increase in searches for all-inclusive resorts on hotels.com can be attributed to this convenience, right? And if you think about the world we've been living in, now for the dorms listening, get ready to write this down and hand to your marketing department. So 41% of Gen Zers choose all-inclusives for minimal stress, 39% for ease of booking, 38% for the luxury experience they offer. So think about that value messaging to travelers. It's really about simplification. It's about making it easy, and it's about making the vacation a vacation. Like, I don't know about you all, but when I go on vacation, I want to throw my iPhone into the ocean. I don't want to talk to anyone from work. I just want to spend time with my family. We got 2 kids and my wife, and we love to go travel to beaches. And when we go stay in all inclusive, like, you want it to be easy in all aspects of the stay. So that is, the shopping phase, the booking phase, and then of course on property. And I think that we've seen really all-inclusive resorts really improve their offering in terms of food quality, in terms of the wellness activities that you can participate in. And it's not your father's or your mother's era all-inclusive. Things have really changed. And they've also changed their social media followings, right? And they've tried to become more niche, more cool. And I think we're seeing that pay off. And there's some interest with the younger travelers amongst us. And I think it's a really incredible trend to understand, but also to start to follow. Is this going to hold true, especially as we've seen ADR as the industry go up? How are travelers thinking about the all-inclusive experience versus kind of the bespoke standalone experience?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's a decision that travelers are making every time that they shop. And, hoteliers and people in the industry need to be aware that the decision set is broadening for that younger traveler. It's not just necessarily vacation rentals, right? It's kind of the opposite of that, where they're going to something that's like, okay, make my life easier, make the food for me, come wait on me hand and foot.
And I think that's the key. I think that's even happening. I think it's happening in all inclusives and also with luxury travel agents or advisors, right? People don't want the stress of having to plan it themselves. They don't want to they just want it simplified. Everyone can cut their own grass, but many of us choose not to. That's a decision, right? And the same thing with we can plan a vacation by ourselves and look everything up in the internet, but it's much easier if I go to a place where it's all planned for me, or an advisor plans it all and I'll just show up and enjoy it and take my pictures. And I think it's simplification. I think it's the experience and simplification.
I totally agree. I think that's why we see an uptick in cruise travel, right? Because cruise is, I think, the ultimate all-inclusive,
right?
Right.
Sure.
And the other piece, you're talking about the Gen Z piece here. When I read this, thought about it the other way. I thought about multi-generational travel, and the grandparent paying for everybody, but like wanting to make sure that it's within the budget. Well, you get a number up front, you know how much it's going to be, and then let the grandkids run wild,
Right.
Exactly. And like, I think one more thing to add here is like just this diversity of trip, right? I think people are taking more than one trip a year. So like maybe you have your all-inclusive trip. Maybe you have that vacation rental that's multi-generational. There's so many different interests right now and so many different ways to satisfy those interests that I think we'll see more expansion into different types of lodging, and I think all-inclusive is the one that we're identifying for 25. And the forecast is the forecast, and we'll see what happens in reality.
And there have been so many new brands that have popped up.
I was going to say that, yeah.
Across different segments. And I love this idea of all-inclusives getting, higher quality and finding that guest niche of what people want, but then having so many options for people who may just say, okay, yeah, we have a whole bunch of kids and grandparents and we just want to go somewhere.
Yeah, and we see global brands really expanding into LATAM specifically. And so the question for you all is, as we see travelers start to bundle these together, where do you think these all-inclusive trends are going to be heading?
Well, I mean, it's going to expand. The question is always like, who builds the property, right? Is there money there for owners to do it, who then put an international or a national or super regional brand on it? The brands want it. I mean, but they just want to increase their room count. The question is, how does it sit with the developer community? But as it becomes more mainstream, for the lack of a better term, I think you will see more institutional money sources to say, oh, we can do this. These are pretty expensive to build. But then once we own it, the returns are also pretty interesting because you can budget it so easily.
But so I think, and I think the experiential side is also the side that's going to grow more, right? Because the experiences in the past at some all-inclusives it was stress-free, but it wasn't the best. Like you said, it was not the best. Now, I want a good wine. If I'm going to be someplace, I don't want the cheap wine. I want something that's good. I want food that's, again, experiential. I think that's everything comes back to people want an experience. And it goes back to what you said, Stephanie, in terms of Instagrammable. They want to be able to say, I just had an amazing meal or whatever, an experience here at this resort, all-inclusive resort. And that's what people are looking for, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I talked to a lot of the all-inclusive brands that expand around the Caribbean particularly, and the region that they are looking to next is the Middle East.
Right.
So in the America as well, in US, it's tough, as Jan was talking about the development model, it's tough to make that pencil. But Middle East is one that's kind of been on the radar. So, all right, I'll give all-inclusive another shot. You got me. You convinced me. Now, I want to make things easy too. And you know what? I think there's more acceptance in the world at large to say, I do want this to be simple. I feel like maybe even 15 years ago, it was like, nope, you got to work for it. But you know what? Let's just embrace the simple.
We all deserve an easier life.
We deserve a little bit of an easier life. So next, amen to that. Now, here's a trip that I am dying to find out how each and every one of you wants to interpret. But the other trend on the list, which Brandon mentioned before, set jetting. So this is not jet setting. This is set jetting. Travel to places like the White Lotus Hotel, the Bridgerton Castles, you name it, whatever you're seeing on your TV screen or your movie screen. So Brandon, what sets are we jetting to in 2025? Like, are there any that are over and done? What are the hot spots?
Nothing's ever over and done. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's the steps from Carrie Bradshaw's place in Sex and the City. It's Walter White's house in Albuquerque. Like, people
Jan
are going
is laughing
these places.
so hard. I have to just interject right now. Jan,
is Jan a big Sex and the City fan? I didn't have you penciled in for that.
He does. No, I mean, it's amazing. He can recite every episode.
Jan's a Miranda.
I love it. And like, here's the thing that we're seeing. It's in real time. So we're thinking about Game of Thrones. So we talked about Dubrovnik, right? People are heading to Dubrovnik. You see Emily in Paris. You see Emily in Paris tie in at the Olympics. White Lotus hotels, which you mentioned, right? There's 2 now that they've been filmed, a third on the way, I think in Thailand. And these are all hotels that are quite discoverable. I remember watching the latest season of White Lotus, which is filmed in Italy. And, my wife and I are looking for the hotel on our phones and we found it. And I remember what the rate was when I shopped it the first time. I went back and looked like a month ago, and it's incredible. Now we were at the end of September, kind of the end of the summer season in Europe, but it was just wild the rate that hotel can command because, to what we discussed earlier, people want to feel cool. They want that Instagrammable moment. I actually live close to a set, if you will.
Ooh.
We're almost to the holiday season, so I'd be remiss to not mention this. I live in Wilmette, which is just north of Chicago. The Home Alone house is in Winnetka. It is a zoo. If you go there November to September, it is a zoo. And I'm actually just 3 or 4 blocks away from the church where Kevin McAllister hides. And it's remarkable. You'll be driving down the street on a Saturday and there's families out front taking photos. And I just don't feel like 15 or 20 years ago that happened. Or if it did, we just weren't putting together why it was happening. But it's an incredible trend. And I think it just goes to reflect people want to go where they see and what they think is cool.
Yes.
And as the destination scouts for these shows have taught us, they're really able to find beautiful places that appear on your screen. And when it appears on your television screen, the next step is you're looking at your iPhone screen or Android screen to figure out where do I want to go next. So we've continued to see this trend go. We talked about this last year as well. It's really starting to accelerate. But I do have a question. I'm the guest. Can I ask questions?
Of course.
All right. Infinite time, infinite money. Which set are you guys going to and why?
Oh, man.
Jeez.
Infinite
Easy.
time and Jan knows. All right, Jan, where are you
Jan.
going?
So I just had to Google this just to make sure I get this right. James Bond, Quantum of Solace, 2008. At the very end, there's a hotel in the desert called Cerro Paranal in Chile. And when I saw this, I'm just like, this isn't a set. This is real. I know this is a hotel. And so I looked it up and it was like, oh my God, I so want to go there. I'm a huge James Bond fan. So that was absolutely on my list.
Jan, I got to tell you, there's a book called James Bond Destinations. It's like a coffee table book. And it's filled with all of these hotels.
So Steph, for Christmas, now you know.
That is so fun. So is your martini shaken, not stirred?
And the only true answer to that is in the second to last one when he said, do I look like I care?
That's the perfect answer. Isaac, what's yours? I'm buying time because I don't know what mine is.
I am trying to buy time too, but it's not one set. So the biggest thrill, and I did this before, was movie Arthur, when he's in the car and tells the guy to drive him through the park. And that's what I've always wanted to do, be in a nice Rolls, go through the park. So I run through the park now, but I haven't driven through the park. And then going to Brooks Brothers, and that was, as growing up, I was like, that's where I want to be. I want to be in New York City, and I want to be able to live that life. But the one thing I was going to tell you, Brandon, I'll give you more time, Steph, right here. I was a little upset with the name Sets Jetting. It should have been Fest Jetting. Come on, Brandon. Come on.
Isaac, you got to explain this. We did tourism last year, but Isaac, you travel to festivals. I think fest setting is a thing.
Fest jetting is a real thing. I've met so many people, and that's the thing. That's the next big trend, and that's an experience. And yes, I'll be your travel advisor for those of you listeners who would like to ask questions.
And niche markets, right? You're looking for.
But yeah, it's the same idea, right? It's going someplace and doing things that you can say, "Hey, I was there. I was there when Frank Ocean melted down. I was there." So.
Yeah, indeed. Frank Ocean did melt down and got replaced by Blink-182. I think.
Right. I mean, we were there.
Yeah. I think we need to make a plan to meet at Jazz Fest this year.
Okay, we'll do that.
Expedia Live is at Jazz Fest this year, and it is an excellent festival.
You have a partner in crime. I'll be definitely there. Just tell me where and when.
So this trend is on the appendix. Well, you can do an amended appendix to Unpack 25, and it'll be fest jetting.
Yes, it can
Best
be
jetting?
Isaac's section of Unpack 25.
Yes.
We can give him maybe a little bit of the revenue. I don't think we actually get any revenue from it, but Isaac, you'll get zero.
He'll give
0%
some
of
hotel.
$0.
He'll give
if
some
you're an-
restaurant recommendations.
And if you're an AEG listener and work for HG and need a spokesperson, you may contact me at any time. Or Live Nation.
So even though you gave me time, I cannot think of what my set jet choice
What's your favorite
would
movie?
be. I don't know.
Or TV
Emily in
show. It doesn't have to be a
Paris?
movie.
I feel like I'm on the spot. I like Emily in Paris. That would be fun. You know what? Really, what I watch the most of is Law and Order. So all I have to do is go to New York and stroll down the
York.
streets of
All right.
Manhattan, and I see it unfold before my very eyes. Cheap, easy, done.
You can go with me.
So what you're
Amazing.
telling us,
Where
we
we get the
expect full courtrooms. as
Right.
people.
Then
Yeah.
I'll go to the law part
So-
and the order part.
Tell you what, we rent the rolls, we stop at all the courthouses and go through the park. How's that?
I think that would be the ultimate
Or
New
the
York
Bentley, I don't
City
know.
experience.
Yeah.
But I have done the church and the Home Alone house, and I did it many, many years ago. And I thought at the time, very cool, but it was pre-Instagram. I couldn't even post a photo of it. So pics or it didn't happen.
But what it
Yeah, there's a
reminds me
fence
of,
up
Brand,
now.
okay.
Yeah.
What it reminds me of is back when in the 70s doing the tour of the celebrity houses in Hollywood,
Yes.
right? And so I remember with my parents, we waved to Lucy. We waved to Lucy. She
Like
was
outside her house, watering the
Lucille Ball?
flowers.
Yeah, she was happened to be
kidding.
outside, and it was her. It was like, wow, this is the 70s. Come on, you got to remember this is
Yeah.
a long time ago. This is not
Right.
recent.
Today
I'm
it's
sure
like
it's-
behind this 20-foot wall
Right.
is a house, and in
Right.
this house sometimes lives a B celebrity.
Again,
Yeah,
And now
also
we
was
will take
purchased
your
by a
$50.
trust, which you'll
For the
never
tour.
know who actually lives here.
Yeah. it's a long time ago, so a different time era.
Well, I want to bring up another trend from the list because we've been, on this. We all like to talk about travel and fun leisure travel and things like this. But the other big part of hospitality that I think we all love is the food part of it. Now, another trend on the list, you call it, Brandon, the hotel restaurant renaissance. And I think this will be music to a lot of hoteliers' ears who have quietly over the last years been investing in F&B offerings to turn those hotel restaurants from necessary evil into revenue generator. We see that absolutely. Isaac and Jan are both foodies. They are going to have thoughts on this. So Brandon, how are you at Expedia making the link that great hotel restaurants really are a reason why people are booking that trip?
Yes, it's really incredible. So like there's a trend here, right? It's all experiences, whether it's concerts or it's movies or it's, restaurants. People are finding their niche and they're traveling to do it. So we've seen nearly a third of travelers that are more likely to book when the hotel offers room service. And 31% of hotels, 31% of travelers prefer hotels with exclusive restaurant tables for guests, which kind of, enhances the overall stay experience, especially as the quality of the restaurant improves. So a couple examples of those that I love, Dear Jackie at Broadwick Soho, Four Flamingos at Hyatt Regency Grand Cypress in Orlando. But there's also just like, it's really, it's just amazing that you can go to a hotel and get like high quality restaurant food delivered as room service. I was at the Edgewater in Seattle recently and I got in late and I, wasn't sure what I was going to eat. Called them up. They have a hotel restaurant called 6-7. It's excellent. I had like an amazing plate of salmon in my room. Not a great choice for the smell later, but it was an excellent choice while I was eating it. And I think it just goes to show that like when there are travelers who can find, the time and the money to go spend it in the restaurant, they're willing to do it and they're willing to travel to do it. So when it comes to dining out, something that we found with our EG travelers is that they're spending about 27% more on meals on property and 43% more on drinks at the bar than the average traveler. So the Expedia Group traveler specifically is really looking for that experience. And we've seen that in the data.
I think it's worth for you to pointing out that second part of that statement, what they spend at the bar.
The bar tab.
Exactly. Margins are a little higher too, I think.
Right, exactly. I mean, you're talking about the hotel restaurants renaissance. I think there is a lot, with that we talked about in the past about, micro brew pubs or specific bars, rooftop restaurants, rooftop
Rooftops.
bars specifically, are all the rate. And if there's a red line, so a red velvet rope, that doesn't let the average person in, you stay on property and suddenly the oceans part and you can walk right in, and it makes you feel like $1 million, and you're willing to pay a little bit more for that exclusive experience.
Exactly. That I've got to think that that's a great win-win for the hotel too, in investing in that. Now, I want to ask Isaac and Jan. So STR, of course, tracks P&L data. We know what this F&B or B&F revenue is looking like for hotels. Do you see any data that is supporting that idea that these notable hotel restaurants and bars really do contribute to demand and revenue?
Yeah, well, we are seeing definitely on the food and beverage side that we are seeing higher spend on F&B. So there's no doubt. And a part of that, but there's also higher costs right now with the labor side on the restaurant and bar side. So it's kind of negating itself a bit at the moment, but we are seeing that movement upward. And I would say, just going back, I think it is, again, it's an experience. I go back to that is some of these restaurants I looked up. I was looking on the phone. I wasn't like texting or anything. You guys probably thought I was texting away, but I was looking. I couldn't remember the name of the restaurant. But one of the destination restaurants we went to, my wife and I, in 2019, was the restaurant at Meadowood in Napa. And that's an experience, right? 3-star. It still hasn't reopened after the fire in 2020, the forest fire, but that was an experience. And again, you go to some place like that, yes, you're going to stay at the hotel, and you're going to, that restaurant was phenomenal, even though it was staffed by a lot of Cornellians. Sorry. Yeah, no, just joking. I love the Cornell guys. I'm going to see you tomorrow. Why. Love you guys. It was just, and I just view that, again, it was an experience. And to me, that's what restaurants now and hotels have realized. And the same thing with the bar. When you go and you see the craft, that yes, you're paying a lot, but it's something you're not going to make at home. And again, yes, can you do it at home? Of course you can, but you don't want to. You want someone else to make it, and you want someone who knows what they're doing to make it right.
And someone else to decorate the rooftop so you can take the cozy photo and the boomerang of the cocktails.
It's holistic. I mean, it's a holistic experience. That's touching not only the physical space, but your taste buds, smell. I mean, it's holistic. I think that's what's driving that. And I think it will continue to drive it further because there's a lot to be had there.
When I read this, I was wondering if there's a slight twist to this, maybe for the properties that actually don't have restaurants, where the owner's like, I don't want to touch F&B with a 20-foot pole. Can you be the headquarter, for the destination, where you're saying, hey, we are situated in a 20-mile radius around these 3 Michelin star restaurants, and if you want that experience, come stay with us, and then venture out every night, and we sort of have exclusive access or whatever. Is there a way for hotels that don't have F&B to sort of get the halo of the F&B?
Yeah. It's brilliant thinking. I think I was in New York this summer, and I was talking to a hotelier. And we were discussing ways that you could woo like the higher end traveler, like the platinum traveler. And we were discussing should you give them a resort credit or a food and beverage credit to get them into their restaurant? And there's like a little bit of an aversion, a little bit of an allergic reaction when you say that. But if you think about the offering at these hotels and the average check size of, $140, $160 at some of these nice restaurants, giving someone a $25 resort credit to try it out is only going to be a positive benefit for you as a hotelier. And so I think, Jan, your point's an excellent one. Think about how you can dynamically change or modify your offering to fit this niche. And I'm just, I'm curious, what are the trends that you all are seeing related to F&B? And are you seeing the same level of expansion that we're seeing here at Expedia Group?
I think in the higher end, yes, most definitely, right? I think the next big frontier is how do you elevate and create an experience at a more mid-tier price point, right? Because it's easier to do in the higher end, but not easier. It's not easier. It's actually more difficult, I would suspect. But again, it's more palatable to the people staying there to spend the kind of money at a hotel, at a restaurant, at a high-end hotel versus at a mid-price. So I think that's the frontier, and I don't have an answer for that because that's been something, being a hotel guy and being in multiple brands, we've never figured it out, right? Mm-hmm. How do you that's needs to be figured out because people are going to pay. Even if you can bring it to a price point that's more palatable to a upper middle class income versus like a upper person, there's money to be had. Mm-hmm. I believe.
To me, a lot of this is, you talk about the experience, I would call it theater, right?
Yeah,
And it's like the unveiling of the plate or the unveiling of the drink. Or last night I was in this bar, and for other guests, they were making these Manhattans that were smoked, where they put like something in on the top of the drink, and then the smoke goes into the drink. And I was like, wow, it's not for me, but for my Instagram account, that's great.
It's Instagram gold.
And is it expensive? No. Do you need somebody who is a little bit theatrical in the design and in the presentation? Yeah, absolutely. Can you hire that person? How do you find them in a tertiary market? Maybe those are interesting questions to answer, but I think the theatrics around the presentation, to me, elevate the F&B game.
Yeah.
I think it's location too, over the last probably 10 years, I think we've seen, when we talk about, I'm kind of blending what Jan said about rooftops and what Isaac said about more mid-scale, upscale brands. If you've got the location, and I think about downtown Nashville is a good example of this. Not every hotel is a luxury brand, but if they've got that real estate of the rooftop, then that's the experience that you're kind of leaning into that gives people more of an entry point. And sure, they're going to revenue manage it. Drinks will be more expensive during this game or that concert, but it kind of just opens up the access a little bit. Oh boy, I'm getting hungry now.
I'm ready to go to a rooftop here in Nashville. I'm checking out.
We should be recording this on a rooftop. Yeah, I don't know.
Exactly right. It's like, Steph, you've lost your touch here. We should be on a rooftop.
This discussion has made me hungry, thirsty, and excited to plan a vacation. I think you have sold me on all-inclusive. Definitely detour destinations. I hate crowds, but I think this has been a really fun discussion. Any other highlight, Brandon, that we're missing from this report that you think we're going to have a hot take on?
I think we covered it. I think, there's so many insights within this report, which anyone can find. You can go to Expedia.com and you can find this report. It's Expedia.com/unpack-travel-trends. You can also use the Google. Expedia Unpack Travel Trends is going to bring it up. It'll bring up 24. It'll bring up 25. I thought we had a lovely conversation today about this. And it's just so interesting to me that it all goes back to the experience and the feeling for the person. It's like we've really pivoted the way we travel. And I think it's just a great thing for the world to see more parts of it, more people that live here. And as we travel more, it's going to be great to stay on top of these trends. And I assume that we're going to do it next year, and we'll probably do it even bigger and better than we did it in 24 and 25.
Absolutely. We'll include a link to it in the story as well. And I think the fun thing to remember about that experience thread is experience is not synonymous with luxury all the time, right? We can have experiences at all spend levels. So this has been really fun. All right, guys, as we close out this episode, it is time for the most fun part, where each of you give me a symbolic metaphor, simile, word, song that to you describes the hotel industry right now. And Brandon, guests absolutely must play along. So you are on the hook, but we will not make you go first. So Isaac, we're going to start with you. What's your...
Well, I'm going to look backwards with this, but the lyrics tell you about looking forward. So saw an artist, can't speak, at Austin City Limits Music Festival 2 weeks ago, and by the name of Teddy Swims. I don't know if you've heard of him. Have you heard of him?
Yes? I have, actually.
Okay. All right. So Lose Control was his big song in 2023. Well, his latest song is called Bad Dreams. And I started thinking, I started this with saying September was a bad dream. And so the lyrics of this song, I think it describes this about the industry. It goes, without you, there's no place where I can sleep tonight. What I do for a little bit of peace and quiet without you. So I think that's the industry, right? That's what we do. We provide that peace and quiet. We provide the refuge. We provide the experience. Yes, September was a bad dream. And I know I'm optimistic, Isaac, again. I think I'm going to be optimistic. I think you're going to be very surprised with October, and November's looking good. So yes, it's been a hard year. It's been difficult, but there may be some light at the end of the tunnel for us to hang on.
So the U is the hotel.
Yes. Yeah, well, I don't think he's talking about hotels. I'm interpreting that. I know he's talking. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. I don't think he's talking about a hotel.
But isn't the hotel the metaphoric home that we all
Yes. And he does, there's part of the chorus is I sleep better with you. So that's, again, that works with hotels.
Yes.
And so
there's your tagline.
This is perfect. We are going to now transcribe every love song into a hotel song. I love it.
But yes, I do know that he's not talking about a hotel.
It works for us. Jan, what's yours?
So I, follow obviously the macroeconomic conversation a lot, where we talk about, a soft landing or a hard landing. But 2 weeks ago, I was on my 10th anniversary trip in the Galapagos Islands, and we were on this very small cruise ship, and you get to the actual islands by hopping on a Zodiac. And as you prepare, they always tell you what sort of landing it is, and they keep talking about a wet landing. So I'm like, oh, that's a great metaphor for the U.S. hotel industry, that yes, we will be landing, but it's going to be splashy, and you better, sort of hold on to your gear. We're going to make it through, but there may be waves sloshing and you may get wet. So wet landing it is for me.
I love that. We always talk in recession terms about, the soft landing, but I think the wet landing might really describe it best. All right, Brandon, what do you think?
It's October. I'm a big Halloween guy. I'm going to make a Halloween reference here. I think the industry right now, with all its selection, reminds me of like trick-or-treating as a kid. You have the all-inclusive resorts. They're going to be the full-size candy bar. The house that Gen Zers are going to, right? You've got the boutique hotels. That's going to be your Almond Joy, your Payday, the Baby Ruth ring props. Not for everyone, but they're for specific people. Group and business travel. We all know we need this. That's going to be our Reese's Cups, our Snickers. It's the bread and butter of the bag. And then we've seen sustainability be such a big thing lately. I think that organic and fair trade candy is really representing those hotels that are there for the folks that are looking for something a little greener. So ultimately, Expedia Group, we're the ultimate trick or treat bag. We're the big pillowcase full of everything you could ever want. And yeah, I mean, it's a nice, fun way to really describe the industry, because there really is something for everyone. And Stephanie, you talked about it earlier. Luxury and experience don't have to be the same thing. There are so many great ways that you can travel and see the world. And hopefully our Unpack trends for 25 will help people do that, whether that's detour destinations or finding the perfect all-inclusive.
That's fantastic. And as the Almond Joy lover in this crowd, I would say that describes me perfectly.
That's why I like you, Steph. I didn't realize you were an almond. I love Almond Joys. Oh, good.
This year I'm giving out goldfish. Like not real goldfish, but the cracker goldfish.
That would be funny.
Is that going to make me a bad house? I figured everybody has chocolate.
No, but
like the little bag, chocolate.
The big bags? The little like a lunchbox bag of goldfish crackers.
Yeah. I just had one. It's in my trash, but this size.
Look, yes, Isaac just dug through his trash. So I don't know what that says about me and my hotel and travel preferences, but I think all we want is that giant pillowcase full of candy.
Chocolate, not goldfish. We like goldfish.
It's healthy. They got to save their.
You guys should do a deal with Goldfish for the podcast. I think you guys, maybe Beverage Farms can step up.
I don't know if I really sold it. I may not have kids showing up this year once they find out I'm giving goldfish. But this is a great note to end on. I think we are all ready for 2025. I think it might be time to turn the page on 24 and get into the trends of 2025 and hopefully fantastic hotel performance. As always, thank you for your insight, Isaac, Jan. Thank you for joining us, Brandon. We had a great time with you.
Thank you. And that was great.
And thank you to our listeners. Find the latest global hotel industry news on hotelnewsnow.com. Find this podcast wherever you like to listen and make sure to subscribe. See you next episode.
Hi, I'm Davon Reed.
I'm Omari Head.
And I'm Chris Henry.
We're the hosts of the Next Gen and Lodging podcast on the Hotel News Now podcast network. It's a monthly show in which we interview a new generation of hoteliers to get their insights into a variety of disciplines and topics, from finance to food and beverage and hotel operations. Listen to us on Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode of the Tell Me More podcast was recorded on October 24th and edited by Sean McCracken. Thanks for listening.